Hello, how's it going? Here I am in sunny Scarborough on my roof terrace, day 15 of lockdown. So today I'm going to show you my Linhof Technika and why I like to use it. I think my favourite reason for using the Technika, the Linhof, is, well, let me show you. I'm going to time how long it takes me to make a setup and make an exposure. Here's the iPhone stopwatch. So that was about 1.5 minutes. I know the art of large format photography doesn't really require speed, but it's good to know that you can set up a picture within a couple of minutes if you need to catch something quickly, and this camera certainly allows you to do that. Obviously I had to take a light reading and do a fine focus check. But the great thing about this camera is it's got the rangefinder for quick focusing, and with the Linhof system you have 3 lens modes. You've got your 90mm wide angle, your 150 standard lens, and a 240 for a semi-long telephoto focal length. And there's some presets on the side of the scale here which allow you to click straight into position. I just slide forward and click. So that's infinity on a 150, which is really useful, and you can do a very quick check with the rangefinder infinity, which is usually spot on. And if you stop down to something like f22 or f32, you've got a reasonable amount of depth of field and you could capture a quick landscape, knowing everything's sharp. But rarely in large format photography do we want to work quickly. The reason I love using this camera is everything is considered. You take your time to compose, you take your time to set up, and of course you have the luxury of having various movements and controls. So basic rise on the lens for correcting perspective, and then you have shift, which essentially allows you to correct composition without moving the camera and keeping the perspective correct. I'll just set that to 0 again. There we go. This is my Voigtlander standard lens, 150mm, beautifully sharp. It's a monocoated lens, and I reckon this camera is probably 1950s, so amazing to think, what, 70 years old, maybe a little bit older, and you know what, it still works like it's brand new. The engineering on these cameras is phenomenal. This camera has an added advantage. There's some little bellows on the back here, which allow you, let me just turn this to the side, rather neatly just to put some extra tilt and shift on the back, or some crazy movements which you'll probably never need, but you can see you've got quite a lot of movement there and free play. But the most common use of this is probably just a little bit of tilt on the film plane, which obviously, using the shine flood principle, gives extra depth of focus, depth of field, from close distance to infinity. But this is a great thing to use creatively if you want to decrease or shift the focal plane so things are pretty much out of focus, wide open. It's a very nice effect, especially on portraits. Very creative tool, beautifully engineered, very simple to use, and just locks off solid. Again, you can be a little bit more precise on the lens, but there's no forward tilt, which is a little bit disappointing, you might think. However, Linhof thought of that with an ingenious little system where you drop the baseboard, one click stop, and then you can very easily just tilt the lens plane. So you can actually correct the lens plane so you're pretty much parallel, or you can just apply a little bit of movement, which again gives forward tilt, which promotes maximum depth of field from near to far. If you use that in conjunction with the tilt on the back and just add a little bit of movement, then you've got quite a lot of control over focal distance, working with quite wide open apertures. Ultimately, this camera just does everything that a lens can. And what I mean by that is there's no ridiculously fancy movements, and let's face it, do we really need this in large format photography? Perhaps in the studio, maybe, but on location, for me certainly, I usually use this camera in standard, so everything's set square. So we just click back, lens board is parallel, film plane is parallel, everything's square, so it's ready to use. Everything's just beautifully engineered. The lock on the focus mechanism just looks solid. The rise mechanism, this is 70 years old, and okay, I cleaned the camera. I'm a bit bored at the minute and gave it a little dust. No lubrication was necessary. Everything just works like the day this thing was built. Phenomenal engineering. Also quite useful sometimes, especially you can make use of the triple extension here. So if you slide the lens out to its last click, which would be a 240mm, and then continue to use the focus mechanism, release the bellows. There's little locks that keep the bellows tidy, which do spring away automatically, but I like to unloosen them. And if we keep extending out, there's one more click stop on here, which allows a manual extension all the way out. Click, and we've got a triple extension bellows, which is really useful for close-up stuff. On a 150, this is just over 1:1, so pretty close up for a 5.4 anyway. Really neat design and fantastically engineered, as you can see. So pretty much that is the Linhof Technika. I guess my favourite lens is the 210 focal length. I also have a 300mm. This 150 is razor sharp, love using it. But my favourite lens would be probably the 210, which I'm going to put on now for you so you can see it. Extension away, click. We'll leave it on a longer focal length. Beautiful little mechanism. Gorgeous lens, absolutely gorgeous. Slightly more modern lens, the Rodent stock Apo Sirenar. Beautiful. So, in principle, the 5.4 Linhof field camera is essentially just a metal box, which again is why I like it, because when you take everything off and close the camera down, it basically closes down. And the case, the camera body becomes the case. You can keep a lens on there, or if you're using a different focal length that won't fit, take it off, and there we have it. It's just solid, really, really solid. Gorgeous bit of kit, so well made, and inside here, some of these things I haven't seen in sunlight. The bellows are like brand new. It really is wonderful. So sometimes you want to take the back off if you want to stick a filter on the back of the lens. Great advantage in the field. You can stick a delicate filter onto the back of the element of the lens, so it's shielded from the elements. And there's no glare. So, open the lens up, locks in place, open the ground glass screen. For that you'd have to go under a dark cloth, which I have here. So we can now focus. There we go. Ready to shoot. Put our film in. Lock the mechanism, pull the slide, and make a picture. I generally keep the standard lens on because it fits inside the camera body housing really easily. Little lock mechanism on the rail, which you just have to press. It acts as a little brake and push the camera all